morning. Good morning. Good morning. This is the day that the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in Him. I'm thankful for this day. I'm thankful for who God is. Thankful for what God is doing in our lives. And I'm thank you that He has been able to sustain us. If you made it here, if you're listening to this, that means that you are alive. It means that you've probably had some trials and tribulations. You've had some moments where things have been somewhat difficult, but I'm here to tell you, you made it to another Tuesday. You made it to another week. You made it to another month. You made it to another hour, another minute, another second. And that is something that we cannot take lightly. We cannot take lightly that we have made it to another week. We've made it to another week full of possibility. We've made it to another week where we can see things changing, where we can see things change. We've made it to another week where we can be a blessing to our families, a blessing to those that we come in contact with. You know, we've definitely made it to another week where we could encounter greater things. We could encounter greater things. So I just want to encourage you, and good morning to everyone that is online. Thank you for your wishes. Today, my wife and I, we make 19 years married. I feel old saying that, but 19 years married to my wife. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. My wife would be here, but she's taking the kids to school and stuff like that. But 19 years married, and I'm thankful to God. So thank you to everyone that is just sending hearts and saying that you love us. I really appreciate it. And let me put music here. Thank you. Let me just say thank you to Corona. You know, good morning. God bless. MG, good morning. Thank you, Rick. Love you, Rick. Appreciate you. Rick, man, I really want to taste those shrimp things you did the other day. They looked really good. I'll buy the shrimp. You let me know what to buy. Just, hey, you know what? You can even come over, Rick, and we can do it with the kids and cook it with the kids. I have no problem with that. Not today, but you know what I'm talking about. Jerry, good morning. Love you. Christy, good morning. Sonia, thank you, MG. You know, Barrera, thank you. You know, Sonia, yes, 19 years. Thank you, Giselle. Isai, good morning. Thank you. Jennifer Ann, thank you. Rocky, thank you. And good morning, Giselle. So today I was going to do like somewhat of a message type of thing. And I was like, you know what? No, I want to just talk a little bit about being married for 19 years. 19 years is a long time. 19 years is a long time. Our oldest daughter is 15. She turns 16 at the end of this month. And our youngest is 6. You know what? I got a bunch of kids. No, he turned 7. He turned 7 now. He turned 7 at the end of the month as well. Thank you, Eduardo, Pastor Eduardo. 19 years being married. I think I'll start like from the beginning. I always had like a vision of like who I would marry. At certain times I thought, you know, maybe the person that I marry is not in the vicinity. Maybe they're in another country. I kind of envisioned like one day I'm gonna be maybe playing the drums or serving my father, how I did for many years, well, how I've continued to do it, because I didn't stop doing that once I got married. But what ended up happening was, you know, I had that in my mind thinking, you know, so when I was playing drums in other nations and all over the world with my father and my mom, a lot of times I would just kind of look out in the audience and see, you know, is she here? Is she here? I dated several girls here in the city, and I just never really found what I was truly looking for, like what I believe was supposed to be. Okay, let me put it like this. I dated girls, you know, had some relationships. I could say that I really only had maybe like one really meaningful relationship that I could have considered to maybe marry. One that I could consider, that I could have considered. But there was just something in me that I never had that, like, that push. I'll say it. I'll say God. Other people may say just intuition or the butterflies or something like that. But I never had the, like, she's your wife. And it always scared me because I was just like, I always thought, I'm like, man, I want to be sure that the person that I'm marrying is the right person. And I'm not saying that the girls that I dated and stuff like that were not good people. They were amazing people, but they were just not for me. They were for someone else, not for me. I learned a lot during that time. And one day I was with my sister Joanne, and we were going to go minister, and I was on the drums, making sure that everything tech was taken care of. And then we went to this church called Bethesda. It's down the street. It's from where our church is at. And I'm setting up. It was an amazing band. It was me, Rodney, Anthony Harmon, phenomenal, the late Anthony Harmon, bass player. It was Sam Barretto on guitar. And I think Jason was on organ. Jason Tyson. He plays for, I think, Smokey Norfolk now, and Marvin. He plays for a bunch of people. And I was on the drums, and it was awesome. And we had the choir there. It was absolutely amazing. And before it's our time to go up, I look. Good morning, Navy. There's a ministry that went up to minister before, and a guy that I know, a good friend, Levi Vega, I think is his last name. He goes up to sing, and all of a sudden I see the background singers, and I'm just like, okay, who's that? Who is that girl? And I'm just like, okay, I'm like, that's fine. All of a sudden worship continues going, and I just see her. She's just like really into the worship, and she's just like, she's singing, she's doing her part. But for me, in my eyes, she stood out more than even Levy. Maybe because I had to see her, whatever it is. And not that Levy didn't do a great job. Levy, he did a great, amazing job, great singer. So I looked, and when I look, I'm like, okay, that's cool. Then, that finishes, and I'm like, okay, cool. She's a pretty girl, great. Who cares? There's a lot of pretty girls. And then Joanne gets up on stage. We get in position. I get ready to play. I'm all set. I'm like, okay, it's time to work, and, do our part to just usher in the presence of God. And then we get going, and worship starts going. And all of a sudden, from the corner of my eye, I'm by the wall. If you ever been to Bethesda, they had the drums at that time on the stage right in the front of the stage. And I was by the wall there. And from the corner of my eye, I was looking over to the other musicians, and I caught somebody that was worshiping in the audience. And all of a sudden, when I look, I'm like, okay, I see tears. I see her hands lifted up in a way, just completely crying out to God. At that moment, I look, and I'm like, oh my God, it's the same girl. It's the same girl that I saw on the stage. And right there, I was like, no way. I'm on the drums, and all of a sudden, I feel that sense of like, she's the one. She's your wife. And I'm like, yeah, they got some mojo going on in this church. There's something weird going on here, because this is not normal. This is what's going on. I had a hard time to focus, because if you're if you're playing, an instrument, you have to keep your eye on whoever's leading the band, and you got to keep your eyes on whoever's leading on the mic, whoever's the main singer. You got to look for every cue, look for everything, because as you are a musician and you're playing, it's not your show, it's not what you can do, it's how you can support the mission of that service. But I could not get my eyes off of that girl. And that girl's name was Cynthia. You already knew that, and I was like, who is she? Will I see her again? Does she have a boyfriend? Just so many things started going through my mind, and I'm like, my God, the service finishes, I'm packing up my gear, because everywhere I would go, I would take my snare, my cymbals, kick pedal, because I wanted to make sure that things were set. For singers, you guys got it easy. You could just bring a mic. For drums, you got to make sure, because with drums, you can get into a drum set and the pedal's not working, or the snare is broken, or it sounds terrible, or it could be a million things going wrong, when you go in to play drums somewhere. And I just started asking questions. I'm like, who is that girl? Who is that girl? Who is that girl? I spoke to the pastor's daughter, Becky, I'm from Modesto, and I was like, who is that girl? And she was like, I know who she is. She's great. She's great. She's great. She starts telling me about this girl. And I'm like, wow, that's really amazing. That's really amazing. This is something you might not know. And then Becky's talking to me about the girl, and she's like, oh yeah, she's so, she's amazing. She's so beautiful. She comes to the church and and I'm like, I gotta meet her. I gotta meet her. And then she's like, oh, okay. She's right over there. And when I look, I'm like, no, that's not her. That's not who I'm talking about. She was about to hook me up with someone that was just completely wrong, the wrong person. And the funny thing was this, that the person that she thought I was speaking about was my sister-in-law, Madeline, that married Omar. Okay, I'm gonna rewind. I'm going to the pastor's daughter, and I'm like, hey, who is that girl that was singing there and because Madeline was also singing on the stage. So she's like, she's beautiful, she's amazing, and when I see her, I'm like, no, that's not her. That's not the girl. That's not the girl. It's another one. She was like, oh, okay. I know who it is. She's like, oh, that's Cynthia. That's Omar's sister, and I was like, okay, I don't know who Omar is. And right there, the journey began. Erica, good morning. Mario, good morning. Elizabeth. And then right there is like, yes, Erica, she was about to try to hook me up with who would later be my sister-in-law. And I think she was already talking with Omar at that time. So maybe she didn't know, or I don't know. But but that's funny. But that is funny. So then, so I just go in the pursuit, and then I talk to, some people know him as Big O, Big Omar. He used to play trombone. Like he would show up everywhere. He lives now in Elgin. He's with Pastor Raul, out there. Good friend, known him for, over 20 years. All of a sudden I find out that Big O knows Cynthia, and I'm like, oh my God. I find out that after that, after we packed up our gear, we had everything set. I talked to the sound guy, David. David was on sound that day, David Torres, and I forgot who was on video at that time. And I was just like, hey, did you guys get, did you get footage of that girl? And David's like, what girl are you talking about? And David being David, he's just like, man, go, you go get her, you find her. Doesn't matter what's going on. David Torres, Monica's husband, Monica Torres, if you don't know, Amari's uncle, yeah, Amari's uncle, and I'm like, I gotta find her. I find out that she was going to go to eat at this restaurant called Lazo's right there on Western, and I forgot the other street. Lazo's Tacos, right across the street from, I think it's Maggie's Ice Cream. And I find out that she's there. I show up with some of my friends, and I go, and I'm just like, okay, and when I see her, I just go up to her. I'm just like, and I said, and I'm like, Omar, how you doing, man? How you doing, Omar? And I'm looking at her. Honestly, I really didn't care to say hi to Omar at the moment. I wanted to get to know who that girl was. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, oh, can I sit here? And Omar's like, yeah, go ahead, sit there. So Cynthia's sitting here. Omar's sitting at the head of the table, and I'm sitting right here in front of Cynthia. And I'm just looking at her, and Cynthia's kind of looking at me like, okay, who is this guy? What's going on? She just knew me as a musician. She didn't know I was a pastor's son. She didn't know none of that. Because I didn't want to be with someone that was more interested in what we were doing or who my parents were, because that happened on several occasions. That happened, girls that I dated, and they were more interested in my parents than in me. They liked me. They liked the idea of being with me, but I just didn't see it being something genuine. If you're going to date anyone, they have to be genuine. You don't date someone because of family. Yes, family is very important, but you need to make sure that you have, something attracting you, something in you, something that lets you know, like, man, you know what? I could spend the rest of my life with her. And as I was looking at Cynthia, across the table with me, all I could continue thinking is, I could spend the rest of my life with this girl. Now, I always thought Lester Summerall, the late Lester Summerall, man of God, preached all over the world. He when he found his wife, she was in Argentina and she was playing piano, if I'm correct. I think it was piano. And he literally went up to her and told her, he was like, you're going to be my wife. And she was just like, amen. It will be like that. And I was like, you know what? One day I'm going to walk up, to that girl. I'm going to be like, you know what? The Lord told me. I need some effects for that. The Lord told me you will be my wife. It sounded really good in my mind to do it. And I was about to do it, but I was like, you know what? No, this girl's going to look at me like I'm crazy. She would have never talked to me again. Omar would have punched me in the face. Me and Omar would have no longer been friends. And let's take in mind, Omar is like 6'1" or 6'2", and he plays the trombone. So then I just started talking to her. When I finished talking to her, I'm like, my God, how can I stay in contact with her? What can I do to stay in contact with her? And me being Nisaac and always trying to be helpful, and I got criticized for this. And I'm letting you know the tea right now. You ready to hear this? Okay, because you're probably gonna make fun of me online. And if you're just jumping on, today is my 19th year anniversary with my wife, and I'm just kind of just talking about our love story. Bonita, good morning, love you, girl. Should I tell you what I did? What I did right there at Lazo's? Let me see it on the screen. If not, I could just continue going. If you want me to say what I did, let me get a thumbs up, or let me get some hearts, or let me get something. If not, I'll just move on. I'll just skip that part because it is embarrassing. It is embarrassing. So you know what? I don't really see anyone interested in that. So I'll just continue. So then, now. Okay, spill the tea. So, okay, I'll say it. It's embarrassing. So then I'm sitting there in the table, and I look at her. I'm like, hey, I'm like stumbling, and I go into my wallet, and I'm like, hey, your father, he's a pastor, let me give you my card. Yes, embarrassing. I'm like, let me give you my card so that if your dad needs anything in the church, if it's with sound, if it's with anything, and my card says, Maranatha, and it says it said at that time it was a white card, and it said audio, video, and drums or something like that, and I just gave her my card, and she just looked at me like, oh, thank you, and she put it in her little purse. She took that as I was just the most proud person in the world. Like, who does this guy think that he is, that he's going to try to impress me by giving me his card? Look it. For the record, I know there's some of you that are laughing right now like, oh my God, you gave her a card? Come on, man. Yes. I couldn't ask for her phone number because the only thing that there was around that time was pagers. Pagers were the only thing that were around. Someone would send you a page and all you will see is their phone number show up on the pager. So I did that embarrassing move and gave her my card, and she was just like, who does this guy think he is? He's going to come at me with his card, Wow. Never calling him. So since that didn't work, I got to know her brothers after that. Some way, somehow, I got to know her brothers. Her brother one day asked me, he was like, hey, can you come help us? Yes. Laugh, Joe. Her brother one day, he was like, oh, can you help us with the sound system? I was like, yes. I started hanging out with Omar and Radi, and I started inviting them to concerts that we were playing at, and all of these other things. And I just started giving her attention, and she's just like, okay, who's this guy, and she's just like, what does this guy want, and there was things going on in our church. I started inviting her to be, she was a part of like somewhat the dance ministry in our church for special occasions like conferences. When we did the Petrillo band, the Grant Park, we did Grant Park with Joanne, for the Gospel Fest in the main stage, and we had the dancers and everything like that. I brought her on for that. I'm not going to really go into this, but she had some friends that a friend that wanted to go backstage in there, but unfortunately we did not have enough tickets for everyone. Unfortunately, I kind of made sure that we would not have enough tickets, but because I was just like, because it was just the area, the waiting area, and everybody was back there. Fred Hammond was there. Everybody, Marvin Sapp, everybody was there, and I'm introducing Cynthia and they're just getting to meet everyone, and I'm just like, will this girl even pay attention to me? And I never had like a hint of like, does she even care what I'm doing? Like, does she even notice that I'm like madly in love with her? But I couldn't just throw myself out there like that because I was going to get smashed. It was not going to work, and I just continued just being around her, and just getting to know her. And the more time that I spent with her, the more I understood what a true friend was. I would recommend for anyone, if you're single, maybe due to life, you became single, maybe you've gone through a divorce or hardship or whatever it is that's gone on in your life. There's no greater thing than having that person be your friend. That was one of the things that there was two things I was not going to compromise on. And the two things was, she had to know how to cook. One, say whatever you want to say, but that was important to me. For you, it might not be important, but it's important to me. It was that and friendship. And that was, for me, that was a priority. The loving God, the family, all of that. Yes, it's important. That's a no-brainer. But for me, like, that was just, it had to be the God factor, the family, all of that had to be there. That was a given. But the friend, I wanted to have a friend that I can grow old with. I wanted to have a friend that I could spend the rest of my life with. I wanted to have a friend that in my toughest moments, I can just open my heart and tell her how I feel, and she'll have the right words to say in my life. And I really believe that anyone that gets married, you have to make sure that that person is your friend. Cynthia, love you too, babe. Didn't know you were on here. Pucci, blessings. And it was if the person that you're looking to marry is not your friend, if you're marrying for convenience, money, popularity, selfish ambitions, just because of beauty, you have to really make sure that that person can just be your friend. Do you have confidence that you can speak to that person? In 19 years, my wife and I, we've had a lot of great, amazing moments, but we've also had moments where we felt like, wow, how will we make it out of this? Honestly, in our marriage, and I'm going to be really honest, about my marriage with Cynthia and I, we've never had a moment where we talked, about divorce. We've never had a moment of like, I'm leaving you, or I'm going with some. We've never had a moment like that. I'm letting you know that right now. We've never had that moment. But together as a couple, we've had a lot of hard moments, that really shook us, like the death of her father. That was hard. That was really hard. And a true friend would only be able to see the pain of their friend. And that was hard in our marriage. That was so hard. So hard. So hard. The loss of her father. And a great man of God, the late Radame Galalsa, he would make me nervous because he would always kind of just stare at me like, that's my baby. He would give me that look. And it was hard. Marriage doesn't mean that things are going to always be easy. Maybe in your marriage, you'll never talk about divorce. And I pray that you don't. I pray that you may have a healthy relationship and so forth. And if it's not healthy, get help, seek guidance so that you can be able to just, save that marriage and work on it. Like always, it takes two people. But, my wife and I, we've had tough moments. We've had moments where it was just difficult. It was just like, how do we get out of here? When we took the church here in Chicago, that was difficult. That was hard. But we just kind of every night we would look at each other. We're like, you know what? We're going to get through this. We're going to make it. When people left the church that we thought would stay, we were just kind of like, you know what? We're fine. As long as we're together, we're fine. We're going to do this, with our children, dealing with loss of loved ones, dealing with betrayals, dealing with all sorts of things of other people and stuff like that. You learn a lot about yourself. The moments where, if you're married to someone and you're not married yet, say for instance, you're not married yet and you're dating someone and you cannot see yourself being vulnerable with that person, if you cannot see yourself opening up to that person with everything that's going on inside of you, two things very important. Maybe you need to go to counseling. Maybe you need to get some maintenance done in your life because maybe there's some you issues that you got to deal with. The second thing that I would say about that is you need to really evaluate, are you supposed to be with that person? Because my motto is, if you're with the wrong person, you're stopping that person from being with their number one choice. That's how I look at it. There are certain people that maybe you just dated for a season, but is that who God has for you? A great thing for you to do is see how that person treats your family, because there's no one that knows you more than your family. That was another thing that I asked God for. I asked God, I was like, God, I want a wife that if our entire family is in a bed, like say for instance, we're on the bed and we're just talking as a family and we're just laughing and doing stuff like that, that she won't just stand at the door as I'm with my parents, that she'll just jump right in and just be a part. And that for me, that was important. I saw how Cynthia treated her family. That is so important. Guys, pay attention to this. If you're dating someone, see how she treats her family. I know my mom, growing up, my mom was always telling me that, but there is so much truth and so much is revealed right there. How does she treat her family? That's a real big thing, because if she doesn't know how to treat her family, she will have issues developing a family culture in her home, because her concept of family has been ruined because of whatever the case. And I know there's bad examples and there's good examples and all of that. But when it comes down to it, the word of God says that we're supposed to honor our father and our mother. If we like them or we don't, we're supposed to honor them, because you wouldn't be able to like anyone if it wasn't for your father and your mother coming together and having you. Let's just be completely honest. So it's like you got to really make sure that person that you allow to be a part of your life, to be a friend. And I kept on pursuing, Cynthia. And there was one day that I encountered her, and I was at Sasha's house. It was my brother's ex-girlfriend, Sasha, and she used to live by the church, or still does probably, I think. And Sasha was like the dancer, and and she would do like choreography and the dances that we would do, for the church and stuff like that. And we were there, and I was picking them up because I needed, Cynthia needed a ride. So if she ever needed a ride, I was going to be there. It didn't matter what I was doing. It didn't matter if I was editing a video. I was just like, okay, I would come back and finish the video, finish like at 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. But I was going to finish my work, but I wanted to be able to at least see her one more time. And I didn't have no confidence that she was even going to pay attention. And then I went to Sasha's house, and I'm waiting, for Sasha to get her stuff, because I was going to, I never was in the car by myself with Cynthia, and Sasha was going to come with me to drop off Cynthia at the house. And then while I'm waiting, I tell Cynthia, I'm like, hey, I've really liked, spending time with you and so like that. I would really like to get to know you more, and I told her, look at how stupid is this that I said. I was just like, if we could have, maybe we can go out for coffee or something. I don't even drink coffee. I don't like coffee. I drink coffee because other people drink coffee around me. And I'm just like, I don't want to be just standing there, So, I'll have a latte here and there. I'll have a cappuccino here and there. And what came out of my mouth was like, have coffee. I'm like, after it came out of my mouth, I'm like, Nisaac, couldn't you have planned this much better? And I told her, I was like, coffee or breakfast, lunch, dinner, whatever, whatever. I would just really like to get to know you. And, she looked at me and she like basically she dropped me, She was just like, you know what, Nisaac, I really appreciate it. She's like, she told me, she said, I'm really flattered. Oh, I hate that word. She told me, she's like, I'm really flattered that you would want to get to know me a little bit more. I'm really flattered, but my dad has rules. I'm not supposed to be like dating, but I'm flattered. I'm like, oh. She's just like, I really appreciate. I'm just like, okay, it's fine. And I told her, I had one of those Lester Summerall moments. I had a Lester Summerall moment right there. And I looked at her right in her eyes. I looked right in her eyes like this, not like this. I looked at her like this, and I said, well, I'm willing to wait for that, and I'm not going nowhere. I was just like, after that came out of my mouth, I was just like, Nisaac, that is, I needed someone like on my side to just be like coaching me on, telling me like, what? You the man, you, and I looked at her dead in the eye, and I was just like, that's fine, but I'm not going nowhere. She looked at me like, this guy is crazy. She's like, Sasha, I need to go home. I was like, Sasha, I need to go home, and I took her home, but I didn't care. And I continued pursuing her. I would call her here and there whenever I was on a missions trip. Look at this. I was on missions trips, Costa Rica, Colombia, all these places where we were going to minister. And I would like, in those times, there wasn't FaceTime. There wasn't Skype. There wasn't none of that. There was dial. Yes. And like in my missions trips, I would call her house because she didn't have a cell phone. I would call her house. And sometimes her dad would answer, and he would be like, hey, oh, Nisaac, ¿cómo está? And I had to speak in my messed up Spanish because my Spanish was really bad. And I would tell her, I was like, oh, how you doing? Just calling to say hi and, see how everybody's doing. And I'm like, oh, Nisaac, you're such a dummy, and I just want to say hi. And I was like, oh, is Cynthia there? Is Cynthia? She's like, oh, no, she's not here. And when Cynthia would come home, her dad was just like, wasn't Nisaac, out of town, with the church or something like that. And she was like, yeah, he was in Colombia or Africa or algo así. And the dad was just like, he called you, and Cynthia's like, okay. There was one time that I was on a missions trip, and I didn't get, usually when we would go on the missions trip, it wasn't to vacation. It wasn't to have, a ball. It was like, we saw the airport, the church, and the hotel, and whatever restaurant. or room service. That's what we were doing. That's what we were there for. We were not there to sightsee, nothing. So there was one time that I was not able to get her something, and I literally got her, what the only thing that I can grab at the moment, and I grabbed the pen. I grabbed the pen from the hotel, and I brought the pen and I gave the pen to Cynthia. I was like, you know what, Cynthia, I was over here, and I thought of you, and since I wasn't able to get to the store, I just brought you a pen. I brought you a pen from the hotel, and she just looked at me like, thank you. Thank you. Inside, she must have been like, a pen? I already have pens. And I just gave her the pen. I gave her the pen. I gave her that pen with so much joy and pride. I was just like, at least I brought something. That's why I was like, I was thinking of you. Why are you laughing at me, Yala?
Did it at least write good?
Yes, it did write good. And I'm just letting you know, they can still see you in the corner.
Oh, I might as well just say good morning.
Good morning. Love you, babe. And the pen did write good. And I gave her that pen. I gave her that pen. And then there was another time that I gave her like a tin of candies, and to this day, she still has the tin. And I think there's still one candy in there. We've made sure that the kids don't get it because that thing is like 20 something years old, 19 years old, and why do I say that? Because it's not always the most expensive gift that you can get for someone. What people are looking for is to know that someone is thinking about them. And it was a pen at times. It was candy at another time. It was flowers at another time. But I just wanted her to know that I was thinking of her when she was not with me. And that when she was with me, that she was my sole focus, and she was just there, like looking at me like, man, this guy is not playing games. He's really serious. He's really serious. And one day I just continued in that pursuit, and I was just like, I'm not going nowhere. I had friends that told me, they were like, man, you're stupid. Go out with this girl. She likes you, this other girl, and da-da-da-da-da. I was traveling, in traveling, I'll tell you another tea. I'm going to tell you something you don't know. I went to Colombia. Okay. And, there's beautiful women in Colombia, and I went to Colombia. You guys definitely don't know this one. I went to Colombia, and when I went to Colombia, Pastor Hugo, he was like, hey, Nisaac, do you already have a girlfriend? And I'm like, no. And he's like, you know what, Nisaac, I need to get you a Colombiana. And I was just like, you know what, that sounds pretty good, because this other girl is not like, she's kind of paying attention, but it's like, I have no, like, you're in, this is it, I still had the sense in me of like, she's the one, but she didn't know it yet. And Pastor Hugo, he's just like, all of a sudden, he's just like, hey, I got a perfect girl for you. He's like, I got a perfect girl for you. And she speaks English and Spanish, and all of a sudden, thank you, Joe. All of a sudden, he brings this girl. I want to let you know, with no disrespect to my wife, the girl was beautiful. The girl was beautiful. And Hugo's like, oh, I want you to meet, Nisaac, because I was in pastor. I was just the drummer and helping my dad. And Pastor Hugo was just like, I want you to meet, the apostle's son, and she came and she was smiling. She was beautiful. She was beautiful, and I said hello. Pastor Hugo kind of stepped back a little bit. I'm like, what you doing, man? What you doing? And I just kind of started talking with her. And then once she left, I didn't ask for her information. And in that time, I would have had to ask for her email. I would be like, can I have your email? I didn't ask for none of that. She was beautiful. She was beautiful. Maybe if it would have not worked out with Cynthia, maybe I would have had to go back to Colombia and say, Hugo, I need you to help me in this area because I'm having a difficulty finding a wife. But then when I finished that, I told Pastor Hugo, I said, Pastor Hugo, she's really beautiful, and I really appreciate it. And he was like, but I met this girl, in Chicago. And he's like, oh, is she interested in you? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know. And I just told him, I said, you know, I'm gonna wait on that. I'm not gonna do nothing. I'm just gonna wait on that. I'm not gonna try to make something else work, or let me just wait on that. And Pastor Hugo was like, okay, cool. You know, he's fine. And we just left and kept on going. Not shortly after that, there was one day that I called Cynthia, and she was having a real bad time because I knew exactly what time she was getting home from school. And I called her, and I was just like, hey, how you doing? And, you know, she was in a very, very tough time, you know, at that time. And there was, you know, and I just called her, and I just loved on her. And I was not worried about hooking up with her or anything like that, or I was just being her friend at that moment. I was being her friend. You know, I'll just say it. Cynthia's going to kill me for this. You know, she kind of liked this guy and didn't work out. And I called her, and she was, you know, she was sad about it or whatever. She knew what she had to do. You know, sorry, babe, you know. And I just called her. One side of me was like really happy because I was like, cool. That means, you know, and I was just a friend to her. I didn't try to position myself or anything like that. Nothing. I just was a friend. I was just a friend. And from that moment is like everything just started changing, you know. I wanted to see, is she interested in me? And I kind of like paused a little bit, you know. And then I just said, you know what, I'm not going to talk to her for a little bit because I want to kind of know.
You're an interesting person.
I'm giving them the full story.
It wasn't that. I had a friend of mine that passed away.
Was it a friend that passed away?
Yes, it wasn't.
Okay, then I messed up that part.
Yes, you did.
And she was just having a real time, and I was just a friend, you know. Could you lower your volume?
Yeah, we just had to. I had to come in here with my hair not combed. Hi everyone, it's our anniversary. I gotta get a chair. But yeah, he messed up the story, so I had to come down, like, you know, check it.
Sit down, or
no, I won't sit down here.
We're married.
I know. It's just I have coffee. And
you have coffee, yeah. No. So then, so I was just a friend to her at that moment. And I just loved on her, you know. And I was just like, you know what? Things are gonna get better. It's not always gonna be like that. You know, I know this is very tough, what you're going through right now. We're gonna have to adjust the camera.
Oh, not for long. It's fine.
Here.
It's just, you know. Hey, everyone. I haven't been on here for a while.
You know, so.
I have no makeup on, and I have
I need to fix you.
My hair is not combed.
Instagram.
Or fixed, but it's okay. I'm only gonna be here for like 9 minutes anyway. Okay. Hi, Ricky.
Yeah, I gotta get off.
Hi, Vivi. Hi, Sonia. Love you guys. What's up? No,
Wow. After 19 years, still you don't want to share your coffee.
It's okay.
She's funny. So it's at that moment, I just was her friend. I wasn't trying to hit on her or nothing. I was just her friend. You know, I was just her friend.
By the way, I use the word flattered. I've been listening to this whole thing all day.
You have?
I use the word flattered because I know how to use my words.
I'm not saying I just don't like the word.
You know, some people just don't know what it is to have a girl say no.
Well, it's true. I didn't.
Yeah.
Because they usually said yes.
Your life to just teach you so much things.
Yeah, and you know what? I enjoyed the pursuit. I enjoyed the pursuit of, you know, trying to get her attention. And, you know, after that, I just continued staying friends. We continued bumping into each other. At that time, I built a really...
Let's explain this.
What?
We didn't continue bumping into each other. He continued bumping into me.
I was just gonna say her brothers.
No, he continued bumping into me, and I look like a hot mess. I'm gonna regret this later, but I had to come and fix this situation because he was like speaking from his heart. And I'm like, wait, you got the story wrong. Mm-hmm. It's okay.
So I was just like hanging out with her brothers all the time.
I was Erica, Carmen.
I was hanging out with her brothers all the time.
What's up? Sorry, I haven't been here for a while.
A long time.
So yeah, so he kept on bumping into me. it got to the point that
in a friendship type of way.
I told my kids that he was like stalker status, and then my kids took it to like
another
level of really thinking Dad was a real stalker. So Nisaac,
I think so too, Sonia. She is flawless to me.
One time in dinner, he's like, you know what? Let me explain something and set the record straight in this house. I am not a stalker. I was not a stalker. And my girls were like, if someone were to have like bumped into us constantly, how you bumped
her
into
brothers were inviting me to all these places. I would call after services. Omar had that big Motorola phone that they stole from his car.
Yeah,
he had that big Motorola, and I would come like, hey, what you guys doing? You know, he's like, oh, we're doing this. And I would tell Omar, I'm like, hey, Omar.
Hold on. I was like, hello?
Omar was like, I would tell Omar, I'm like, oh, hey, Omar, come by the church. You know, Marvin Sapp is practicing at the church today.
Yeah,
or Fred Hammond was here.
He was like,
because we had a lot going on, you know, at that time. That's when Joanne was a part of Fred Hammond's group.
The whole point was...
So Omar would come, you know, and Cynthia was right there because Cynthia was wherever Omar and Radi were.
Because
her dad was not going to leave her by herself.
I said this before. My brothers have been my best friends my entire life. And second of all, we couldn't go alone anywhere.
Yeah.
Well, especially me. If I wanted to go out anywhere, I had to be with my brothers.
Yeah. So it's like I became very good friends. I'll even say it. You know, like Radi and Omar during that season really became like best friends. You know, I really got to know their heart. I really got to know who they are. Yes, I had my heart on, you know, what can I do to get close to your sister? But you know what? I really enjoyed the time with Radi and Omar, their family and all of that. And it was beautiful. I was just like, you know, I continued loving Cynthia even more, you know, in that.
Okay, so let's also explain. You see, you got a little nervous there because he's always talking about by his lonesome self.
I'll be down here like in the basement like Joe Biden. Like
stop it. Stop.
I'm here in the basement all alone.
Stop.
All alone.
So
she's poking me. She's like, don't do that. It's gonna get political.
No, it's not gonna get political. The thing is that I didn't give Nisaac any attention for like 6 months, and he was showing up wherever I was at, so it was irritating me even more. And he would call the house. I was not allowed to talk to boys over the phone or anything.
Thank you, Emma. I know it is funny.
So when Nisaac would call my dad would tell me, Nisaac called, but you know you can't call him back. Second of all, he found out that he can call the house if he was talking to my brothers. So he would call the house and ask for my brothers. And I'm coming home from school, and guess what? Who will pick up the phone? It was like at 3 o'clock or something. It was every day at the same time. He knew my brothers weren't home yet because either they were still in school or they were working, and I was the only one at home.
And your father was at the gym.
And my dad was either at the gym or he was doing something ministry related. So I'm like... And
your mom was at work.
And my mom was at work. So...
and when Omar was there...
Omar
was Cupid. Omar was like, oh, she's here. Hey, Cynthia, Nisaac's on the phone. Omar was like king. Omar was like, bro, I love you.
So those are the things that kind of happened. But then Nisaac would call me, and I wouldn't stay on the phone for a long time. I'm like, bye. Until I had that moment where my friend passed away, and I was having a very difficult time, and he literally called me 1 hour after I found out.
I didn't know. No one saw. It was a spirit.
I just keep looking at myself in the camera, and I'm just like, oh my God.
Baby, you're beautiful.
Oh, thank you, baby. Even though you had to chase me for 6 months, but that's okay.
It was
so
worth
after
it.
6 months of me, like, he would come through one door, and I would walk out the other door because I just didn't want nothing to do with him. After about 6 months of that, we started to become friends.
We were friends.
No,
there was just...
We were acquaintances. Maybe you thought of me as a friend, but for you, I was like, okay, I know him. Come on, girls. You know what I'm talking about. Don't even try to play or just be nice to Nisaac just because he's a pastor. Let's be real. Like, you know someone likes you, and you're like, oh, okay, hi. But it's not like we're BFFs. We didn't become that. We didn't become friends, like starting to become friends until after about 6 months. The truth shall set you free.
I was deceived.
Thank you, Chrissy. Dang, Erica.
Yeah, Erica, that was like really mean. Like,
I
really felt that.
Me, right? You
I really felt that.
You all missed me.
I felt like I was living a lie.
You all missed me. You weren't living a lie. Be free.
I thought you were my friend. What is a friend? I don't even want to talk to you right now. This is our fight, a 19-year anniversary fight.
A friend is what we have learned to be 19 years in a row.
A married couple.
Married couples.
We were friends already.
We have to be always friends. You're my best friend, babe.
You're my best friend too.
Exactly.
But after you said that, I kind of felt a little like.
But for those first 6 months, you were not a BFF.
I didn't say I was a BFF. That's best friend.
I wasn't even allowed to have a friend that was a boy.
I was a friend. Okay.
It's okay, people.
Jesus.
Habla, papá. Sigue hablando.
I don't even want to talk no more. I just want to do the Spanish one. They're much nicer. They're much nicer to me.
Because they're from other countries?
Man! This girl is on fire today.
This girl is on fire.
You always singing. Always singing.
This girl is on fire.
So, look at.
Thank you for sharing, Pastor, giving us single guys hope. Look, Ricky, are you on his side or are you on my side? Is that pastor or is it pastors?
Ricky's my friend.
Plural.
Ricky's my friend.
That phrase.
Ricky's my friend.
Phrase.
Ricky's
Make
my
it
friend.
plural.
Okay? He's my friend.
We learn from each other.
You know? So yeah, but you know what? It was like after that, then I kind of started ignoring her for a little bit. And I was just like, I want to see if she even notices.
Come on, Dinah. Thank you. I hear you, Pastor Cynthia. Come on, speak on that. Shaba. Let's go.
Dinah, I knew you before Cynthia. Dinah.
That's okay.
Dinah.
That's okay.
I knew you.
She's married to my sister.
We did college together, Dinah, and we're going to leave that right there.
We're family on this side. Dinah, I got you, boo. Right there.
So then after that, I kind of started ignoring her a little bit. Log off, Ricky. Don't pick sides.
Man, stop yourself.
Geraldo, you know what?
So
you just picked the side,
Geraldo. All of our
Geraldo.
comments from. We're literally looking at all of our comments around all of our platforms. So if you see us kind of like reading things out randomly, you could be just as nosy as we are and look at all the platforms that we have it on and start reading the comments as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of comments. So then after that, I kind of just started like ignoring her. I was like, look, does she even care that I'm giving her attention?
I didn't feel ignored though, because you see, girls, I'm just letting you know, if you're single, don't be thirsty. You know, just let it be. Let it be, and when it happens, it happens. But don't overthink it. Oh my God, he forgot about me.
So then,
oh my God, and now with text messaging, people get like anxiety attacks because you didn't get a text.
You see the little bubble thing, you're like,
and you're having like un ataque. And I'm gonna explain this to you. Live your life, have fun, smell crisp air, read a book, look at the sun, have a good movie night, whatever it is. Don't pay attention to how many times that person's responding to you. Because I'm going to tell you this. Women speak and say and write more words than men do. They are not going to ever get to the level that you are at when it comes to how many words come out of your mouth. Okay?
Thank God.
It's okay.
Thank God.
With that said, don't think that they're going to respond to you in the way you want to respond. And some of these dudes are getting just as anxious about the situation as well. But their side is more like, what am I going to say? How am I going to say it? What am I going to do? Do I respond now? Do I respond later? So just let it happen. Go ahead.
So then I just kind of started ignoring her. And then all of a sudden I bumped into her one day because I was just not around. I was not coming around. And when she sees me, she's like, thank you, Dinah. Jesus, Dinah. I thought you were my friend, Dinah. So I just kind of started ignoring her. And then all of a sudden when I bumped into her one day, you know, I think it was at church or something like that. There was a service or a conference or something or concert. I don't know what it was.
No, it was probably like on Fullerton.
No, it was not on Fullerton. Don't make yourself sound like
Fullerton.
Fullerton. Cruising down Fullerton. That was fun.
Boom, boom, boom. And you're just going down the whole... You don't even know what the song is saying anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Keep on going.
So then when she saw me, she was just like, hey, I'm already supposed to be in Spanish. You know, and then right there, she tells me, she's like, hey, where you been, you know? You know, what's going on? You know, I haven't seen you around and stuff like that.
Pausa.
Yes.
Pausa. Cualquiera diría that I was like hungry.
No, I didn't say that's not being hungry. You asked me a question. Oh, where you been? I haven't seen you.
Because you were everywhere I turned, he was right there. But I don't even remember telling you that.
Oh, I remember that.
Amali's like, I had a plan for both of you. Yes, we did.
Amen.
God had a plan for both of us.
So then I was like, okay. So she noticed that the way that I was treating her changed. So then right there, I was like, okay, there might be hope here. Then there was another couple, like weeks later, a month later. We were at the church. I was getting off the drums. She was at the church with her brothers, sitting in the church. I get off the drums.
No. Well, prior to...
Excuse me?
He made a cahoots with somebody.
Yes, I
to
spoke.
Watch me on what I am doing throughout the entire service.
Not the entire service. I told her,
it's like he was
look at
regaining his
Mario
status.
from church, Mario Loja, Leticia Loja, that I love with all of my heart. I love the Loja family. You know, I told Leticia, I'm like, Leticia, look it. I like this girl, but I'm not sure if she likes me. When I get off the drums, I need you to watch her.
Guys, I woke up
and
like
see,
this is my hair.
And see if she looks at me while I'm walking to my seat. 1 week went by. I asked Leti. I went up to Leti.
I look at everything.
I went to Leti and I was like, hey, Leti, you know, did she look? And she's like, hijo, no te miro. And I was just like, man, Leti, okay. Next week comes by, you know, the next time that she was at the church. And then I get off the drums, and when I finish and I go up to Leti, she was in the back. I'm like, Leti, did she look? And she was like, she gave me thumbs up. She was like, Nisaac, te miró. Y cuando tú estabas caminando, when you were walking, she was watching you like the whole way that you were walking.
You were probably wearing that bright blue.
Why you gotta continue going
suit.
at me? 3-piece. We had to wear suits in that time.
It was bright blue.
We had to wear suits. You don't even know what suit I was wearing at that time. We didn't even know.
It was like this blue.
We didn't even know.
The whole suit was like
that
this.
was in at that time.
It was like this blue.
I did have a suit that color.
This and his tie too. It was like this blue.
We had to wear suits, ties, and everything for service.
How are you not gonna look at him? Look at it. It's all of a sudden you're like service, watching the service.
Oh Jesus, you're too much. You're too much.
Walking through.
So then after that, after Leticia, Loja told me that, I was like, Leti, it's on. It's on. Leti was like, te miró, Nisaac. She was like so happy for me. She was like, te miró, Nisaac. You know? And then like before that, there was one day that there was we were I think we were in construction, or we were practicing for a conference at the church. And then I introduced her to my dad, but she still didn't know that I was a pastor's son yet. She didn't know yet at that time. You know, I don't know if we were putting rug in the church or we were doing something.
I'm gonna say it. I lied to him the first time he asked, because he had just finished putting a new rug in the church, and he had just put a law that nobody was allowed to chew gum in this sanctuary. I'm not from the church. I walk in with a bubble, blowing my bubbles, chewing gum, and Nisaac says, "So this is my pastor."
I said, "Yeah." I was like,
"I want to introduce you to my pastor." And Nisaac doesn't even look like his dad. And he's like, "I want to introduce you to my pastor." And when he introduces me to his pastor, and I'm like, "Oh, hi." And they had just told me like 2 seconds ago that there was nobody allowed. I mean, no one was allowed to chew gum in the sanctuary. And he's like, "Do you have gum in your mouth?" I swallowed it. I was like, "No." Look. I was like, y'all ain't gonna get me here. And then I didn't know that was Nisaac's dad for months. I started liking him.
That was
already.
Before all of that with Leti and all that.
Yeah, I started liking him and everything, and I had sworn up and down I was never gonna be
a pastor's son.
I was never gonna do any of those things. So I feel like I got like, you know, what is it called?
I don't know.
I got corralled into it without knowing, and then by the time I found out, it was too late.
It was too late. Cayó en la trampa. You're in my web.
Yeah.
My web of love.
It was so funny, man. It
was
so funny. It's okay.
So that it ended up being hilarious, you know. And then when I finished, when my dad looked at me and he says, "That's the girl you like?" And I said, "Yeah," you know. And he was
I was very cordial.
Yeah, she was very respectful. And then Dad told me, he was just like, "Does she like you?"
It's a scam. Someone said on here, scam. Exactly. I got scammed.
Who said that?
I don't even know who that is. El Grass 13. Hilarious. I don't know if we know you, but your name on there, I don't know it.
Yeah.
But man, that was so funny.
And then I told my dad, I was like, "Yeah, you know," and he was like, and he looked at me, he's like, "You serious, Nisaac? And has she given you attention?" I'm like, "Well, I'm not sure yet. I don't know."
No.
You know, and I told him, and then I told him, I said, "Dad, I think she's the one." And this right here scared everything out of me at that moment, because then my dad looks at me and he says, well, if you think that she is the one, pray and fast for God's will to be done. And I was like, oh my God. Because my dad had never, like, girls that I dated, my dad was like, oh, okay, cool, that's fine. You know, oh, you're dating her? Oh, okay. Oh, you're dating her now? Oh, okay. You know, you need to make up your mind, Isaac. You know, you need to break up with that one, Isaac. I'm like, Dad, but she's beautiful. He's like, you need to break up with that one because that one's gonna mess up your life.
Listen to the prophet.
And I'm glad. I am glad that I listened to him on those cases, and especially when I'm gonna leave that there. I'm glad I listened to my dad. You know, and I was just like, so I started praying and fasting about it, and you know,
I was not praying and fasting. I was just.
She was very carnal about the whole situation, like
until finish that part, and I'll tell you my second.
You know, so then.
Left. Hold on, is there something left? Are you distracted?
Yeah.
Are you distracted?
So then it was just after that I just continued, you know, like pursuing her. I didn't want her to think I'm crazy, you know, but I wanted her to know that I felt that she was special, you know, and. That's pretty much, I would say that's pretty much just the story. And
well, the thing is that I was getting so annoyed with you, and I was getting really annoyed. Like, this guy's not leaving me alone.
It was the devil messing with her.
And I was like not in a point in my life where I wanted to be with anybody. And so what happened was one day my dad got annoyed with me and said, excuse me, he's like, well, why are you so angry with this guy? Like, he hasn't done anything to you. He's just treated you nice. And that was a miracle in itself.
Oh, no, wait. The Beanie Baby.
Wait. And so then, my dad, I remember, I'll never forget, I was in the doorway of my room and my dad was by the phone and he had just hung up the phone because Nisaac had tried to call the house. And I was like, oh, he shouldn't be calling, a bunch of stuff. I was just talking smack. And then my dad looks at me and he says, you know what? You need to pray and fast for his purpose. Stop thinking it's all about you. Dang. And when my dad told me
those conversations with her dad helped.
Yeah, and because my dad was very prophetic as well.
Yeah.
And when that happened, he made me pray for Isaac's purpose and ministry life. And he told me, you need to stop thinking it's about you. If you are that annoyed with somebody, instead of staying that upset with somebody, and this goes for anybody, and it became a mantra in my life. If I'm annoyed with someone, I start praying for their life, their purpose. And it started because my dad made me do it with Nisaac. And before I knew it, as I began to pray for his ministry, for the purpose God had in his life, for his future, for his wife, for his children, because I had to go in deep. And my dad, if there's anything he taught me how to do well, was how to pray. And as I began to pray, I kept on seeing myself in his future. And I was like, Lord, take this out of my mind because I shouldn't be praying this way. This is not you. But I kept on praying for him and just asking God for guidance. And sure enough, lo and behold, here we are 19 years later. The prayers of the righteous availeth mucheth. Hey, but it has to do when we're not praying with our intentions in hand. It has to do with when we pray God's intention.
Let God's will be done.
Exactly.
Yeah. You know, and it's like, even in that time, I remember like, the big thing that really like just like caught the attention even of the dad was, you know, I knew that she really liked Beanie Babies, and I was just like, okay, she really liked Beanie Babies, you know, and she had some Beanie Babies, and I was like, and I had a friend that owned a store that sold Beanie Babies.
Princess Diana had just died.
So I found out like that she had Beanie Babies, and I was like, okay, I need to get her a Beanie Baby that she most definitely doesn't have, you know. And I was just like, and I talked to my friend and she was like, I got you. She's like, it's going to cost you, but I got you, you know. And I was like, okay, no, I just want to make sure. I don't want to give her something and then she's like, oh, I got that one. She's like, oh, no. I'm going to make sure that the one you give her, you know, that she doesn't have it. All of a sudden she's like, hey, it arrived. And I went to pick it up and she was like, $200. I was like, what? $200 for a teddy bear? You know, and when I look at it, she pulls out this like case and she's like, here you go. She's like, this is the limited edition Princess Diane Beanie Baby. Number like 100.
With the special edition crown,
with the special edition crown, the dress, everything. She's like, she told me, she says, I assure you that she does not have this. And I was just like,
I was not gonna pay more.
I took my money out and I was like,
baby.
here you go. I'm like, I'm buying it. I'm buying it. Today, that Beanie Baby's worth a lot of money, you know.
And we still have it.
And we still have
obviously.
it, you know. So then I gave it to her, you know, and when she was at a restaurant at Zephyr's ice cream shop.
Too bad they closed it down.
Yeah, that place was amazing. It was amazing. You know, Dinah, you remember Zephyr's? That place was amazing. And then when I noticed that she was going to be there, because I didn't know she was going to be there that day, I literally left the restaurant, drove home, got the Beanie Baby, and came back. And I went to where she was sitting. She was sitting with all the girls, and we were sitting with all the guys.
Legalistic that day.
Yeah.
All the girls sat
all the
together.
girls were on
and
one
all the
table,
boys sat together,
and all the guys were on the other table.
Like no co-ed interaction.
Yeah. And
Weird.
then I went, and she was sitting
These
on the
Maranatha
edge.
people will be weird.
She was sitting on the edge. She was sitting on the edge of the chair of the booth.
Table. No, the table was in a booth.
It was like a booth.
It was 2 tables.
Yeah. Okay. She was sitting on the edge, and I came and I got on one knee.
I was like, what is this?
I got on one knee. So my first proposal, you know, was at Zephyr's, and I told her, I said, hey, you know, I know you like Beanie Babies, and I just wanted to get you something. And all of a sudden, I just out of my jacket, because you know everybody's clothes was really big in those times, you know, and I pulled that Beanie Baby out in the little container and everything like that. She's like, oh my God, this is so nice.
Bodysuit,
you know,
with big jeans.
I don't know, you know, I don't know. And I gave it to her, and she was just like, wow, thank you so much. And she's like looking at me like, you know what, that was really nice. So she goes home, and then her dad sees like one of her other Beanie Babies, you know, and then sees.
No, Omar was my chota. The chota face.
Omar.
Because I wasn't, chota is a Puerto Rican super slang hood word,
it's hood
meaning
word.
like tattletailer.
Yeah.
And so my Omar comes into the house and he's like, Papi! And I was trying to rush to my room because I just didn't want the attention. And my Omar starts taking out another Beanie Baby and starts
he grabs a real
comparing
like
it
a McDonald's Beanie Baby,
comparing it to Nisaac's big old expensive Beanie Baby, even though we're not going by what the money is. But Omar, if you know my brother, is Omar, and so was talking to my dad. My dad
yes,
was
Geraldo,
laughing.
it is worth about that, and probably a little more because of the number that we have.
And my dad, everyone's cracking up, and I'm in my room red, like I don't even like this guy. Like, what's going on? We're just friends, and it was just a big bochinche in my house. But it was funny. It's a memory that will always be with us. We still have the Beanie Baby, and it's just part of our story.
It's part of our story.
But I don't want to take up more of your time because I know we've been here.
Spanish.
Nice has been here for a while talking
in the basement.
And so, we want to make sure that we're not taking the rest of your time. But thanks for hanging out with us today.
Yeah, we love
hearing
you.
a little bit of our story, and I had to come down, you know, just to like
make sure I don't mess up the story.
Explain the facts a little bit better, but that's okay. In my
joy.
morning hair, taking the kids to school.
It's always a joy to have you here. So I'm gonna jump on and get to Spanish. You know, so I can just do this in Spanish.
What did my dad say? My dad was laughing so hard, like he couldn't stop laughing. And he's like, Cynthia, ¿qué es esto? Explícame. And he was telling me to explain to him. And he just, my dad was a very joyous man. So we couldn't even get the story through because he was laughing so hard. And Omar
because he was looking at the one Beanie Baby, and he's looking at this. He's like,
which one do you want?
Which one do you want?
They're laughing so hard, and Omar was cracking up. Everyone was laughing so hard that I was just like, all at my expense. You know, it was one of those great family moments, but we just laughed. Yeah. And I don't even remember what he finished saying because we just laughed so bad.
Well, I know after time, I know your dad had told you, you know, he was just like, what about Nisaac?
What about Nisaac?
Yeah.
Oh, that was...
Like, that's when it would, like, when it got serious.
Yeah, that was another time. And he was just like, Cynthia, you know, I want you to think about
Ruthie, love you.
Nisaac a little bit. And
yeah, her dad told her.
He's like, I want you to think about Nisaac, and I want you to continue praying. Like God's will be done. And I'm like, okay. But another huge factor, and this is when you know you have to be all in for what God wants, not all in for what the other person wants, is that when my dad, the day of our wedding, I'm about to go down the aisle.
Yes.
And
it was a beautiful wedding.
It was a gorgeous wedding.
Oh my God. When I saw you, I wanted to cry.
I did cry.
I know you did. But I wanted to cry.
I
cried later. I cried later.
That's not bad.
Stop it!
That's not bad.
Yeah, I had an ugly cry.
He had an ugly cry. We have pictures to prove it. But anyway, when I'm about to walk down the aisle, I walked down with both my parents, and I looked at my dad and I said, Papi, like, I'm walking down this aisle how you raised me, and righteous before God. But if you tell me and right pure, and pure, But if you tell me right now that this is not the man of God for me because God revealed something to you, I don't care if it's last minute. I am just not going to put myself in a position to be married to someone that's not God's will. Even if it's the moment of, the day of. And I remember looking at my dad and I'm like, Papi, I'm giving you my gift right now, which is that I'm walking down this aisle pure. Because I know that that is something that is honorable to you, regardless of what's happening in the family, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, cousins, whatever. Me, myself, and I are walking down this aisle pure. But if you tell me right now that this is not God's will, we're going to walk out together as a family. And my mom on the other side was like,
oh my God.
¿Qué? And then she quieted down. Like it was just her first initial reaction, but then she
No,
quieted
your
down.
dad was a bit like, ja.
No, he didn't say anything. No. She quieted down and I looked at my dad, and my dad, he just had tears in his eyes. And he looked at me, he's like, God spoke to me. This is the man for your life. It hurts me to have to give you away right now, but I know it's God's will. And that's when I cried. And that's how we started down the aisle crying. But it didn't start because I'm about to meet my husband, even though that happened. And I cried when I saw Nisaac. But it started because I had this massive moment with my parents to say, we're all in. And we're all in to leave, or we're all in to stay. But whatever we're going to do it together. And we're going to do it before the face of God. And we're going to do it right. And it didn't matter the thousands of dollars that were spent on the wedding. It didn't matter reputation. It didn't matter pride. None of those things matter. And I want to and I know we're about to close, but I rather say, let God's will be done above all else, because it's your life. It's your life. It's not something to play with. Don't try to put a cost on your life and say, but I've spent all this money, or I wasted all this time. Don't do that to yourself. That's just like, you're torturing yourself. But when you say, God, let your will be done, and I'm willing to do whatever it needs to be tasked in order to get that will to be done, and you know without a shadow of a doubt, that's what's up. So I'll leave you guys with that, because I'll never forget that moment with my dad. And I'm making sure that I'm not going to cry with it, but that's what's up. That's what happened there. Thank God for this dad. Praise God. Yes.
Yeah. It's so important, the place of a father. It's so important, the place of a father, in the home.
Well, it's important for the place of parents to be prayerful over your children. You can't expect to have teenagers and young adults and try to say everything that you got to say into their life when you weren't around when they were a child. But if it happens, it happens. I constantly tell parents, keep praying, because if there is something that you will learn in the process of praying, is the voice of God for your children. Those little feelings in your tummy, we might not have the words for all of it, but God is there. It's like discernment might not carry words, but they will carry action. And it's about the action that you take when you receive discernment from above, from God. And again, I say, you won't always have the words, but there is an action to your discernment. Either the action is to continue in prayer because you don't know what your next step, but you know which direction to take. Or it's about a moment like what I had walking down the aisle, about to walk down, and I'm like, Papi, is this the man of God for me? One final time, I need to ask you this, not because I was in doubt, but because I know my dad was a man of God, and he was a prophet, and I know he heard God, and I know that I needed to hear that from him one last time, because if there, in the times of my marriage that we were having a struggle, or we were doubting, or whatever it may be, because if you've been married, I don't care how long, you've had doubts. And my husband said it earlier, we never talked about divorce, but it's not like that we never thought about something like that. It's just, it is what it is. That's what happens in marriage. But when you're willing to go back to moments that were God moments and say, no, I'm hanging on because of this God moment. And one of my massive God moments was when I looked at my dad and I'm like, Papi, is this the man of God for my life? And because I knew he was hearing the voice of God, he looked at me, he said, God told me this is the man of God for your life. So in moments that were crazy, I'm like, wait a minute, but this is the man of God for my life. I will continue forward. We will get through this, because there will be struggle. There will be issues. There will be arguments. There will be nights that you're upset and you don't want to talk to each other. There will be hurts. There will be trials. But it doesn't mean that you're not going to get to the other side. It just means hang on and persevere and endure, because although the race is there, the finish line is very close by. All right. Ja. I don't want to keep predicando aquí.
You're awesome. Well, baby, happy anniversary.
Aw,
and I
thank
love
you, Amen. And now you both are a huge blessing to many of us.
Thank
Love you
you
all. Amen. Beautiful. Love it.
Thank you all.
Thanks for hanging on for a long time today. People are already asking in Spanish if there's going to be a Spanish session. Go ahead.
Okay, let's
Sí,
do
va a
it.
haber una sesión en
Lo vamos a
español.
hacer en español ahora, ¿ok? Déjame cuadrar aquí. Chao. Love you. See you tomorrow.